boring, uninspiring, interminable waste of time. Believe it or not, this couple is still complaining. From the Montecito mansion with their two beautiful, perfectly healthy children, a little chicken coop and flower garden out back, matching Uggs for Megyn and her toddler, all royal titles still intact, complete with matching stationery, and nearly $200 million in the bank thanks to their insatiable desire to finally tell their story. Finally tell their story. Like to Oprah, and on Spotify, and in New York Magazine, and in a memoir, and, well, you get the point. They have to do it, you see, because no one knows the whole story. The whole story. No one.
This has always been so much bigger than us.
No one knows the full truth. We know the full truth. The institution knows the full truth, and the media know the full truth because they've been in on it.
Okay, so Harry and Meghan know, and the entire royal family knows, and the press, who informs the public, they know, and the guy at the Sunoco, he knows, and the waiter at Olive Garden, he knows too, and that's all that knows. No one else knows the full truth. So they have to finally tell it. Okay. And what is their chief complaint, pray tell? It appears to be that the press has occasionally been not nice to Meghan Markle. After months of
breaking right now, shocking news that Prince Harry will not return to the UK for his own uncle's funeral. This is Robert Fellows, who is the husband of Diana's sister, who Harry claims to be very close to. And Calvin, what's most shocking is the reason behind this. He says it's because of security concerns. It's because of this ongoing row that he's having with his dad, who he's desperate to step in and force the government to give taxpayers money, our money, Calvin, so he can be protected even though he's no longer a working member of the royal family when he's in the UK. But there's so much irony in this, Calvin, because in the week that he says it's too dangerous
hey, y'all, come look at this,
to go to Norfolk, which is where this funeral is being held, he's going to go to Colombia instead, one of the world's most dangerous countries. What do you make of it, Calvin?
Wait for it.
It's just another lefty thing, isn't it? This is what they do. Everything's politics for them. He's making a point. He's making a point to his father. It's not safe for me to come back to the UK unless you give me what I want. It's like a toddler having a tantrum. That's exactly what it is. I want this toy. If you don't give me this toy, I'm going to stamp my feet in the supermarket and scream until I get it. This is Harry for you, unfortunately. The fact that he thinks he can't visit Norfolk, that's one of the safest places in the world, yet he's going to go to Colombia. Are you mad? Bless him. On Diana's side of the family as well, who he claims to be closer to, and he's obviously still estranged his father's side of the family, but on his mother's side, this is really strange for him. And actually, I bet many of
that doesn't make sense.
His relatives will be upset by the fact that he won't be there. It's a great shame. I feel sorry for him. I'll keep him in my prayers and hope that he can come around to some common sense and put his left-wing woke politics aside, because this is family and nothing's more important than that.
Fact. I know, but isn't that the irony, Calvin? Constantly, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are talking about the importance of family, the importance of loved ones. But I will never forget the night...
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
Well, it was 2 nights before the late Queen's death. And she had just pulled out of the Privy Council. And I knew that things were not good with her health. And Prince Harry was in the country.
Okay.
Calvin at the time. And I was on my GB News show and I just learned about the Queen, and I think I was feeling quite emotional about the whole thing, and I just spoke off the cuff. Nothing was scripted or anything like that. But I said, Harry, just go. Forget this feud. Just go to Balmoral now. Go and see your grandmother before it's too late. He didn't, so he hadn't seen her for a long time before her death. And I feel like this is a new low. Because it's not even about visiting Robert Fellows before he dies. It's about being there for the rest of his family. I mean, could you imagine Diana's reaction to the fact that he wouldn't be at his own uncle's funeral?
I know, and I think no matter how estranged he is from his brother, I'm sure his brother would appreciate him by his side at an event like this. And we all do. We've all got families. Every family's got some kind of strain. And, you know, I love my sister to bits, but if I wasn't speaking to my sister and someone...
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
And our family died, I know I would be there for her regardless of what had gone on between us, because that's what family does. Blood is thicker than water, and we have to come together in the end. And it's a great, great shame that he hasn't done that for his uncle, but also that he didn't do that for his grandmother. And he will probably have that on his conscience for the rest of his life.
Oh, absolutely he will. Absolutely he will. And the thing that I think is so shocking, Calvin, look, there's lots of times that ordinary folk cannot attend funerals. Are you serious? Because it can be down to cost or not being able to miss work. And that's understandable. But when you're one of the most privileged men in the world, and when you're rich, and when you're not doing it because of a petty row, fact, which, by the way, Calvin, it's never going to be resolved, this row. That's the other frustrating thing with Harry. It's like, can you imagine if Charles, just to appease Harry, overturned a government decision? That's when you start getting into the area of constitutional crisis. The government has looked at the rules, Calvin. They do not believe it is appropriate to give security for Harry, paid for by the taxpayers, when he's not a member of the royal family and when he's making millions and millions of his own money in the US. Just like, by the way, if Elon Musk comes to the UK on personal business, he doesn't get security paid for by you or me.
Quite right, too. I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to pay for Elon Musk's security. I don't want to pay for Harry's security. He's not a working role. He doesn't deserve it. It doesn't need it, in that fact. And you're quite right. If he's making Netflix money and Spotify money, he can probably afford his own security. But actually, I think we need to go a step further. I've been saying this all along. I've been saying this on your show for years. We need to strip him of his titles.
Yes.
You know, if he's no longer a working royal, he should no longer be a royal, full stop.
Okay, I'm listening. You have my attention.
Absolutely. And there's actually, Calvin, really interesting you raise that. There's a growing movement, actually, and I'm going to speak to Robert Jobson about this because I'm fascinated to know what he thinks, but there's a growing movement within the royal family that, are you serious? That actually says we've got to deal with the line of succession here. And hear me out on this, Calvin, because William is obviously the heir to the throne, and then it's his 3 children. But you'll remember William travels with his family, including on helicopters and planes, which was something that the Queen, the late Queen, was really opposed to because she thought that it put the line of succession under some threat. Fact. Because, look, you just imagine a worst-case scenario where, and please God, and I don't want to put this out into the universe, but just imagine a worst-case scenario where something happens to William and his 3 children. You're in a situation where you have King Harry and Queen Meghan, which would be the end of the royal family, wouldn't it? So that's why it's not just about the titles anymore, Calvin. It's about, I think, something more significant. It's about looking at a change of law, and this would be very controversial, and I don't think Charles would want to do it. This is the problem, but I think William would want to do it. A change of law that would mean that Harry would be removed from the line of succession. And even more significantly, Calvin...
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
There's another idea, which is that you would take George, because you know George is obviously under 18, and if something were to happen to Charles and William, you would take George, he would obviously be king, but in fact, you would make Princess Anne his regent. So she would effectively be doing the job of monarch. Because could you imagine if George was king, if something happened to Charles and William, but actually because of the line of succession, Harry would be regent?
Yes, I can imagine. And we've had similar situations in the past when King Henry VIII died and Edward VII took over, and politicians essentially took over the king because he was too young to govern for himself. And we could see a similar situation with a woke lefty celebrity from LA, formerly Prince Harry, essentially governing from behind the scenes. That would be dire. That would be disastrous. So yeah, I think they need to seriously consider who's next in line for the throne.
What?
Actually, I think Prince William needs to step up and listen to his late grandmother, because yes, family is important. We've said this throughout this conversation, but of course the country is more important. The crown is important.
To be honest, you know, I'm usually pretty on side with William about things, but I think it's so irresponsible, Calvin. Yeah. Even the other day, right? Do you remember he went to, what was it? Was it the Olympics? Or no, football, Euros final. And he went with George on a plane. Now, if that plane were to crash, you have a very sick king. You are damning the United Kingdom to King Harry and Queen Meghan. Just don't do it. Just don't take the risk. And I understand it's a bit difficult when you've got young kids and he wants them to live a normal life, but I think they could find a way to make it work. Okay. For George to go with maybe another member of the family on the plane, or someone who he trusted, or the nanny. Could the nanny not take George on the plane with security?
Okay, I'm listening. You have my attention.
I mean, I have it on very good authority that the king's cancer is getting worse and his health is not in a good state. And so times like this, we need to be extra, especially careful of how we protect the sovereign, how we protect the crown, and the future of the sovereign, the future of the crown. So Prince William needs to be taking extra cautious steps to protect his son and have some kind of separation from them when they're traveling, especially by a plane, for the country's sake, because the country will be.
I just think it doesn't even matter what form of transportation it is, Calvin. I would say do not travel with George. There is too much at stake. And I would also argue that the royal family should be considering actually removing Harry from the line of succession by law. Because things are going so badly for him anyway, Calvin. Did you see he's lost another staff member this week as chief of staff? Josh Kettler quitting after just 3 months. It's like the 18th member of staff he's lost. I mean, God, what's going on?
Why can Harry and Meghan not keep staff? What is it about this pair that people keep leaving or getting fired left, right, and centre? It seems. Are you serious? Seems like they're not a nice couple to work for.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assumption, Father Calvin.